Hi, my name is Christian Baker. I'm the founder and CEO of Profound Formulas. We make premium, niche-focused dietary supplements for direct-to-consumer e-commerce companies selling in the USA. Today, we're going to talk about what kind of container can you use, could you use, and should you use when it comes to making a powdered supplement. So, number one is a plastic tub. This is quite a normal stock standard tub that most manufacturers will have on hand. This is the most famous and top selling collagen in the world, and they're using a pretty standard tub. So this is what's called HDPE plastic. It is BPA free, so it's better for your health and for the environment, and also all those things. The lid is what's called PET plastic, and the biggest difference between these two things to keep in mind is that HDPE tends to be more matte, more smooth, less shiny, and a bit more springy. And PET tends to be harder and shiny and a little bit glossy. So when you see a lot of smaller containers, say with capsules, they often are PET, shiny and glossy. And when you see tubs like this, they're often HDPE. So if a manufacturer asks you which one do you want, that's how you know what the difference is. But any good manufacturer should obviously be holding your hand as well and teaching you things as you go. Now, the advantages of using a tub is that they're abundant. Every manufacturer has them. They're affordable. There's a ton of sizes and optionality already in stock in most places. They're not something crazy and custom. So usually it's not going to negatively impact how many products you have to order outside of the normal rules of how many things you have to order, which is typically based on how complicated and customized your product is. So advantages: affordable, abundant, doesn't negatively impact your minimum order quantity. Disadvantages: it can be seen as generic, normal, same as everyone else, has a lot of plastic, so can be seen as bad for the environment, even though it is recyclable, and maybe not a ton of optionality as well. Although you do get different shapes and sizes. Here is a slimmer version. Shout out to Cameron and Austin from Better Nutrition, good stuff. This is also HDPE with a PET lid, so you can do this. Also keep in mind, yes, most supplement sales are done online, direct to consumer, either your site or Amazon. But if you want to ever get into a physical store, and I do recommend you do, try that because it adds such great credibility and also content opportunities. Keep in mind how this is going to look on a shelf. So how much space does it take up? How high is it? Will it catch someone's eye? Is it going to annoy the retailer because you're taking up a lot of space? All these things should ideally be thought about from day one before you make your product. So that is the tub. Moving on to option number two, we have the pouch. So this is AG1. You'll see me talk about them a lot. Obviously, you basically can't escape them. They're the most famous supplement in the world at the moment. I worked for them for 5 years, so I know the product extremely well. And originally, they did actually start off with a tub, and they swapped to a pouch. And that illustrates the point well, because one big reason that companies would use a pouch instead of a tub is that it tends to have less plastic, less total material. Another advantage of the pouch, it also tends to be lighter, so it costs less to ship. It's also very convenient for, say, second, third, and other orders beyond. If someone is buying your product every month as a subscriber, which is an ideal outcome for everyone, obviously, because then you can use the pouch as a refill. So even if someone gets some kind of fancy container on the first order, for example, these guys have a metal container, your next order can be something that costs you way less and is also better for the environment, easier to ship to the customer, and you just pour the sachet into the old container. Advantages of this: less material in the tub, more environmentally friendly, easier to ship, lighter to ship. Disadvantages: it's way more vulnerable than a tub to damage. So it can be damaged in transit. A box could get thrown around and then the packet splits open or something. Someone with a box cutter could open a box and unfortunately slit your bag open. There is likely to be more returns and refunds from damaged product using a pouch than there is than using a tub. So keep that in mind. Also, it might increase your minimum order quantity slightly, but that's not likely, depending on which manufacturer you're using. But it can be a bit harder to source a good pouch versus, say, a good tub. moving on to number 3, stick packs. So, stick packs is basically what it sounds like. A little stick that you rip open and it has your product in there. Individual servings. Every single serving is wrapped. This is more of a square or rectangle than a narrow stick, but there's many different ways you can make it. This is a product from my home country of Australia called Sodi. If you're familiar with Element, the world's most famous electrolyte, Sodi is basically, they just copied them, but they used a sexier salt on top. They used the salt from Lake Deborah in Western Australia, so really cool marketing angle, and they're doing really well in Australia. So with stick packs, they're premium, they're transportable. You can take it with you when you travel, to your workplace, to the gym, outdoors, when hiking, whatever. It's very, very easy to transport versus, say, a pouch or a tub. They tend to be reasonably environmentally friendly. So this is like a metallic, like aluminium or aluminum for you Americans. Recyclable pouch, and it tends to come in a light cardboard box, which is easy as well. So they're also very much on trend. So a lot of companies are moving to stick packs even without any logical reason, just because it's cool, it's different, it's considered more premium than a tub. One big disadvantage with stick packs is that they tend to come with a much higher minimum order quantity. So if you are running on a tight budget, you are trying to test your first batch of product to make sure it actually sells, you're going to have a hard time with stick packs because the minimum amount you have to order tends to be high. Which is, again, while it's a good competitive advantage and barrier to entry to elevate yourself above your competitors, if you can commit to stick packs, and they're scared of doing it because they're worried about that. So keep that in mind. So 3 options: tub, pouch, and stick packs. All have their advantages, all have their disadvantages. Think hard about these before committing to one. Don't just take the first thing your manufacturer recommends, or don't just use the same thing your competitors are using. Really think about how it's going to look when it comes to making it, shipping it, your customer's experience when consuming it, and ideally your customer's experience when they see it on a shelf as well. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one.